Hey everybody, welcome into another edition of Talk About Watches Live, and let's talk about watches. My name is Tim. On behalf of the entire team here at TAW, we're thrilled you're along. And tonight, we're going to welcome a guest that I know that you guys know and love, and you've watched him for quite a few years. You've done a lot of shows with me for over a decade now, well over a decade, and that is Rick Kalina and Jean Marcel. Now, for those of you who saw the show, and for that matter, for those of you who didn't, Jean Marcel had a record-setting event about a month or so here, and we're thrilled to have them back tonight. And Rick's going to be showing you watches that we have not seen before. This is all going to be the, well, like I say, the new stuff you haven't seen before at very, very strong pricing. In fact, if you want to get a head start, if you'll follow the link, and if you'll look, depending on whether you are looking at us on Facebook or whether you're looking at us via YouTube, the link's either going to be underneath or over to the right. Click that, you're going to see the full lineup of the watches, and you can get started right away. So if you don't want to wait, that's the route to go. Otherwise, of course, we're going to delve into it in another minute here. Very quickly, a couple of things. If you haven't yet signed up for the email list, you really should. The email list gets advanced notice of all the specials and a lot of the daily events and so on that we put together for you guys every day of the year here at TAW. And we promise we're not going to spam you. We don't like spam either. We do not sell. We do not rent the email list. And we limit our list, or I should say email, to I think it's one a day. So you're very safe with us. Please go sign up. Also, members of that email list have access to a closed group on Facebook. And the reason you want to be in that group is they get notices ahead of everybody else as far as the special announcements, as far as the special deals, even ahead of, frankly, the email list. Now, you don't have to be in that group, but it's free, so why not? You really should go check that out. You should also be following us on a lot of social media. Obviously, we're on Facebook, but you can also check us out on Twitter. You can check us out on Instagram, and you can check us out on Google+. So please follow us at all those various locations, and we'd love to have you along for the ride. The other thing I want to mention very quickly, especially since tonight we're going to be talking about pure Swiss excellence, and of course that is what Jean Marcel is, and that is PayPal credit. This is going to help you make these pieces, which are already going to be hugely discounted, even more accessible. Now, a lot of you know the term 6-pay, but the thing about 6-pay is that those are rigid payments. You have the one down payment immediately, and then you've got other rigid payments and so on. Now, if you want to go that route, you can still do that with PayPal credit. One of the recent questions I had was, do you have to be a member of PayPal to have PayPal credit? No. Once you qualify, you're free to just use it. Now, here's the advantages. You can divide it up yourself if you want and just do that payment thing, but there is no money down, and as long as you pay it out by the due date, 6 months from when you use it, there are no interest charges of any kind. And you can pay that out as you wish. If you want to do equal payments, that's great, or you can skip a month or double down on a month and whatever. So it's hugely flexible. And to use it, on the final page of checkout at talkaboutwatches.com, just select PayPal credit. Once you qualify, you're good to go. So it's really that simple. All right, with all of that stated, let's get underway and let's welcome Rick Kalina and Jean Marcel to the show. Hey everybody, as promised, Rick Kalina back on the show. For those of you who might have missed it, a few weeks ago, Rick delivered a literal record-setting show here at Talk About Watches, and we are thrilled to welcome him back. Very quickly, before we even get Rick officially here, I want to mention that if you'll follow the link, and depending on how you're viewing this, that link is either going to be off to the right or directly underneath this video. We have set up a link that will take you to all of the Jean Marcels and all of the special pricing. So this is going to save us having to bring these all out now, which you guys are familiar with the term preview. In lieu of that, all the special pricing is now active. Just seriously, just click the link. It's either underneath or to the right, depending basically if you're looking at us on YouTube or if you're looking at us on Facebook Live and possibly in a replay, and then also with what your portable device might be doing. So that's one of the two places. Just hit that. You're going to see the full array of products. Again, all the show pricing is now active. You should also know that what we're going to be discussing is in very limited quantity. So please act as soon as you're ready. And I can't guarantee, because there's at least one. In fact, we're going to open with it. That's a one of a kind. So that may or may not be there. So if you're interested in what's been termed the snowman, you need to get over there. All right, so enough babble. Let's get Rick Kalina out here. Rick, first of all, congrats on the record-setting show, man. That was really cool.
You know, it says an awful lot about the people who were watching and that they really did understand the difference between everything else and 100% pure Swiss Jean Marcel limited edition.
Well, Rick, I want to move off of that thought directly into the first piece because, as I mentioned, this is a one-of-a-kind, nicknamed the Snowman, if memory serves,
Right.
the Verticron.
This is the Verticron Snowman. We're the only company in the world that can do it. It's registered and taken care of legally. Besides, what we have, so you understand it, is normally the chronograph subdials, the 3 subdials, are always scattered around the dial on angles. Well, what we've done is we've re-engineered, rebuilt, retooled, and introduced and registered vertical chronograph, 3 straight vertical chronograph circles, 12 to 6, including the day and date is in each subdial. Now, we call them the Snowman because of the 3 color circles that are down vertical that are in the shape of a snowman. This particular one is the last one in existence, and it has the midnight black dial along with your snowman vertical in the middle.
Rick, let me interject just for 1 second. For somebody who doesn't know the Verticron at all, it's my understanding that that began as a Value 7750, but then you guys completely re-engineered the movement. This is not a module.
Right. What we did is we wanted to have one of the strongest, most reliable engines, if you will, that we know is safe and is good like tremendous, but we didn't like the way it performed. So we get the original, which is the Value, and they come in, by the way, all edit movements come in 3 quality grades. The least expensive plain, simple design, simple metal, simple construction, a middle grade that's a little bit more expensive, and then their platinum grade, top of the line. Now, that's what we always start with. We stripped it, we rebuilt it, we engineered it, and we moved everything around inside that engine of the Verticron, which you can see. Now,
well, Rick, let me interject again because there is literally just one of these, so I can't unfortunately spend a huge amount of time on this. But in addition to that incredible custom work on the movement, can you reference the bracelet really quick, and then we'll move on?
This is called the Milanese Mesh bracelet. We introduced it about 10 years ago, and lucky for us, once we introduced it, we ran a ton of ads, we showed it. 2 of the highest, amazingly high quality pure Swiss brands saw it, thought it was so exciting, found out what it was and where we did it, which of course is Switzerland, and used the same bracelet, this Milanese Mesh, in their models. Now, here's an important difference for your viewers to know. This is included in our watches, not the way it's an upgrade from a strap to Milanese Mesh, and one of the companies in particular adds $750 to upgrade to this Milanese Mesh. When you see our prices on some of our pieces, you're going to be astonished.
Well, Rick, let me interject on that point because I want to move on, but give us the price you're going to do on this very last Verticron, if you would. Okay,
the Verticron that we're talking about and showing right here has a normal retail of $4,295. And by the way, we forgot to mention it has a double anti-reflected coated real sapphire crystal front and a sapphire back the same. This particular watch, which is the Astrum Verticron, sells for $4,295. For this show, and there's only 1 piece left in the world to sell, and this is it, you can pick it up for $2,150. Now that's below its cost. And by the way, all the other watches tonight also are below their costs.
Well, Rick, I'll leave that one there. And again, as you heard, guys, there's literally just the one. And by the way, I got to tell you, whoever owns that, everyone else that's familiar is going to be genuinely jealous. That's an amazing build. All right, let's move from there. And our next piece we're going to show you from Jean Marcel tonight is the Klaris. And this particular model I actually have here. This one is done in the yellow. There's also one done in the white. Both of these Klarises are going to be presented on a Stingray strap. And Rick, maybe a place to start here would be sort of twofold. Maybe talk a little bit about the very special concave bezel, which is remarkable. And also, I actually have 3 questions for you very quickly. One is, you charge for your gold layering, and I want to talk a little bit about that. 2, reference, if you would, the concave bezel, and also your thoughts on Stingray. But you know what, let's just do the first 2, and then we'll hit the strap. What's your thoughts on properly doing the gold layering, and also the big deal about the concave bezel?
Okay. The folks that have watched me before, and that's like a lot of hours, a lot of collectors, a lot of viewers, and learned an awful lot about watches from us, Something I'd like to talk about is the gold layering that you see on so many different brands at so many different prices. Well, the obvious best you can do is a solid gold case, bezel, back, and everything. The second best thing you can get and to do is what's called micron plating. Now, micron plating means you have one layer of pure gold on it, then you have a second. You can have as many microns as you want. Now, that's one of the pieces. The important thing about micron is how much do you put on your watch. Remember, gold is very pricey, over $1,300 an ounce. So what happens is we use 10 microns plating on all Jean Marcel watches. Now, why do we use so much? Well, first of all, compared to most all other yellow plated watches, and they're not plated, they're what they call PVD, which is particle vapor displacement. And as you would think, because of the name, there's just a super thin, if you will, vapor coating of gold on the case. Well, you know, I've been in this 53 years. Let me tell you, that isn't going to last too long and look too terrific. So 10 years after you get your watch and you look at it, it's not going to look so terrifically gold. 10 microns is the super heavy durable that lasts and lasts. And then to make it even better, Tim, what we do is we take the top micron. That whole top micron is called an extra heavy plate. It's called a solid plate. Now, the reason we do a super heavy top micron is that's the one that's going to show and get most of the wear. So that we use a super heavy top micron and then followed by 9 more microns of gold. So you're assured of a terrific looking watch for so long.
Well, Rick, let's jump from that and get into the bezel on this, because to me that's one of the huge eye-catching ingredients into a Klaris, is that this is a bezel unlike almost any other on the planet.
Yes, you're right, Tim. What happened simply was, and you know how I look at watches, and constantly the question I ask myself is, how do we make it different? How do we make it special? What can we come up with that other people haven't done? Like we just talked about the Verticron. Well, when it came to bezels on watches, there really are only a couple of bezels they've been using for almost 200 years. The first one is the plain angled, simple bezel, high polished. It looks really nice, but it's, you know, normal. The second one is they do a coin edge bezel where you have little cuts, if you would call it, like the edge of the old coins have the cut marks. And, you know, the third is they sometimes stack a second level next to the first level, so you get a 2-tier flat-topped bezel. Now, what the invention we did here was, why did we have to make them flat? Why did we only have to put a coin edge? Why can't we do something really special? So the idea was, let's make it concave, like a valley around a mountain. Well, we did new engineering, new tools, new dies. It took over 6 months to do that part, and then I thought the rest would be simple hand diamond lapping and polishing, which, by the way, is the most expensive and best way to polish cases, bezels, and everything else on your watch. What we did was, I thought it would be simple, and what we found out was, because it was concave, the polishing wheel that they do by hand with the diamond paste on it would not work well in the concave bezel. It's really designed for flat surfaces. So we had to re-engineer, retool even the polishing, and it takes about 4 times as long to hand polish a concave bezel. Tim, the interesting thing is it took over a year to get that finally done. When we introduced it at the Basel Fair, the same day, another brand, one of the most top-of-the-line brands, starts with the letter P, and then the second name is P. They introduced the same identical concave bezel as the newest, latest design that has been done in the watch industry. So if you talk about a compliment, I guess you could say that's very complimentary to our concave bezel that we use on our Astrums.
Well, Rick, let me jump to another thought I started to get into earlier, and that is your use of the Stingray, because I know from my years in the business that Stingray, from a leather aspect, is not very easy to work with. And I assume, with your attention to detail, like everything else, there must have been some thought that's gone into that as well for you.
Right. Most of the brands that you see, certainly even people that are twice the price of our watches, They use, the embossed pattern where they take, nice soft cowhide, and then they stamp the top of that leather strap with a pattern. Now, that's kind of nice and it sort of looks good, but remember we talked about how plain vapor coating gold on our cases just isn't good enough. Well, guess what? Tim, I can't live with that concept. How are we going to make a looks like Stingray but doesn't cost very much on a Jean Marcel? So what we do is we use genuine prime real Stingray, and then it's finished, it's coated. In this case, it's again midnight black gloss shine, and the entire thing is genuine prime Stingray. Of course, by the way, Tim, we always have to have a double butterfly deployant on every Jean Marcel, because once again, if you're going to do it, you might as well do it right.
Well, Rick, as we get ready to move to the next item here, I guess one of the things I need to leap into to close things out is let's talk pricing on both of these, because there are two different pricing structures.
Okay, the first piece is going to be what we talked about with the black dial, which also has guilloche, hand guilloche, not embossing stamping. Again, that less expensive thing they do. Hand guilloche engraved pattern, and most important, not embossed markers, hand applied markers. To the people who are learning and love to collect watches, the difference simply is you take the dial plate and you turn it upside down, and you have a steel stamping die that you stamp it from the back, and it pushes up metal on the front side of the dial, and you make it look like a marker. And it's kind of nice, but here we go again, Tim. Is that really what Rick will do when he does a watch? No, he won't. What we do is we make a completely separate little marker. We hand polish it with the diamond lapping and polishing, and we hand apply it to the dial. So what you see is real, and if we get closer, hopefully you'll be able to see through the double anti-coated, anti-reflective coated sapphire crystal, the hand-applied gold markers on your black dial. And Tim, they really jump off and stand off, and they're eye-catching.
Right. So Rick, again, really quick as we wrap up, I need the pricing structure for your for the yellow gold layering versus your white steel.
Okay, the yellow gold layering model normally sells for $2,095, again with the genuine Stingray deployant buckle strap. Now, it sells on this one time only, and remember, these are all limited editions. So it's not like somebody can order 15, 20, 25 pieces. They're all single digits, meaning less than 10 for the entire world are available of the 300 we make of that watch. So that particular watch normally retails for $2,095, and you can buy it now at $865. Tim, that's way below cost.
And that's for the yellow, and then what is the pricing structure for white?
Okay, the hand diamond lapped and polished in stainless steel normally retails at $1995, and you can get that for yourself for $790. Now that is hand diamond lapped and polished, hand applied markers, genuine prime Stingray strap, gold matching, of course, unless it's steel it matches, double butterfly deployant bracelet strap clasp, double anti-reflective coated real sapphire front crystal and back crystal. And my gosh, what else could we talk about? A 100% pure Swiss, top of the grade movement engine in every single Jean Marcel.
Okay, and on that note, I'm going to leap into the next piece. I brought mine up into the shot here. Bigger watch, which we should start, Rick, and talk about you building the larger watches. Solid link build, absolutely a gorgeous piece, of course, because it's a Jean Marcel. Rick, let's open with the special offer, if we could, on this one, and then we'll jump into some features.
Okay, in order to make sure that this event is a second record-breaking, because last time was literally like we called it a sellout. Nobody could believe it. But the people learned, appreciated, and said, wow, the product, the 100% pure Swiss, the hand diamond lap and polishing, the best of the best, and the normal prices versus what I can pick it up for really made a lot of sense. This particular watch, which is the Astrum model again, and that's the series that this one, Astrum, have a two-step hand diamond lap polished bezel. The selling price normally is $2,195. But you can add it to your collection right now for $895. What more can I tell you is that the price is so far below cost, and yes, it's a very limited quantity. You can't get 10, you can't get 12. I personally don't think you can get 7 or 8. But if you act quickly, you can get one, and that's a $21.95 retail Jean Marcel Pure Swiss, and you can get it for $895.
Rick, one of the places I want to start on this one is, and there's a lot to talk about, but the fact that Jean Marcel is now building the bigger wristwatches, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, again, what we did was we listened to our collectors and customers because they know a lot more about a lot of ideas than I can personally come up with. But they also know that I listen and I care so much. If I can come up with something different, unique, special, and especially the size, which is important, the standard traditionals, which are 38s, 39s, sometimes 40s, aren't big enough to get done what you need to do today because a watch makes a personal statement.
Well, moving beyond the bigger watch, Rick, let's jump into the complication. Now, you took what the industry calls the Rainbow Day or the Arc Day, most often seen at the 12 historically, but you guys moved it around to the 3 o'clock position.
Right. Part of that where we move the face dial of your watch. I'll tell you why. Having been in this like kind of new 53 years, that's unbelievable, half a century, and listening and learning to people who were ahead of me and therefore knew more. They said, you know, Rick, the dial of your watch is always like the face of somebody. And if you have a great looking face, people are going to go over and take a look. Well, that's why we spend a ton of money, a ton of time, hand guilloche engraving work, hand applied marker work, because our dials make a statement. This particular model has hand diamond lapped and polished bright finish Roman markers that are on a jet black dial. So when you wear your watch, and I think you can see, and you move it around, the light hits the black and then hits the polished. And what happens is the dial markers jump off their background. Now, of course, we also match the complexity into our bracelet finishing, because there we do a hand diamond lapped and polished bright mirror finish center link, which is then surrounded on the sides with a hand satin finish link. Once again, you get a contrast that helps make a statement.
Well, Rick, one of the things that leaps out immediately to me, and I'm here wearing, oh, and speaking of wearing one, I wear almost exactly an 8. I would say you can have this guy's at least up to a 9, and maybe more, but I'd say as it ships, at least a 9.
Right, so if somebody has what we call a healthy wrist, this watch will take care of it. But Tim, we ought to mention to everybody that we're not like one of these tonnage, 50,000 watches a year, whatever. We're special. We only make 300 of this watch for the whole world. So if somebody needs one link, and honestly, that could happen, you contact Jean Marcel, that's us. And by the way, I'm the president of this thing, and I poured my life in. You contact us, and you just tell me, here's the Jean Marcel I have. I need one link. Could you handle that for me? And guess what? Of course we're going to send it to you. And you think we're going to charge you for that? Of course not, we're going to charge. Because we appreciate the fact that you're a Jean Marcel global collector.
Well, Rick, let me jump to just an observation since I have a chance to wear this particular one. The heavy weight of the bracelet, because it's all solid link, it really, especially when properly sized, this is really going to balance the watch on the wrist. I don't see this being either top heavy or bottom heavy when it's set up.
Right. What happens is the double deployant buckle, which is on the bottom, which secures your watch, is positioned, and the weight of the links are positioned so that when you wear it on your wrist, it stays right in the middle of your wrist, and that's important also.
Well, what we're going to do at this point is let's go ahead and move to the other pieces that we have for you guys. And again, a reminder, if you're just tuning in, look off the side or underneath the video, depending on where you're looking, be it Facebook Live or whether you're on YouTube. And the link is either to the right or underneath. And you hit that, and all of the Jean Marcel, all the special show pricing is going to be immediately available. So you do not have to wait for something else to get, for officially Rick and myself to talk about it here on the show. So with that stated, let's take a look at the next piece. Okay, so let's delve into color. And Rick, Jean Marcel, I think it's fair to say historically, initially you were doing a lot of silvers, and then of course the rich classic blacks. You are the author of Havana Tobacco Brown, which really, I guess, fair to say about a decade ago, really started to come into prominence. Today, though, we're going to talk about, I think you refer to it as Ocean Blue, I think, if memory serves.
Correct, yeah. That's, well, again, one of our colors that we launched, national, made a lot of excitement with. But again, I wanted to do something different, unusual, that makes a visual presentation so people really do catch and look at your watch and wonder, and many times they even ask, gee, that's unusual, and it gives you a chance to tell them a little bit of the story about it.
Well, Rick, let me interject on that point about the story, because before we get into this, could you please introduce the next two watches and give us the pricing structure, and then we'll get into detail.
Sure I can, Tim. The first is a brand new, just finished first run production, and it's almost sold out in a month only. Remember, we only do 300 pieces of this for the whole world. And this watch is our Astrum, and it's done for the first time in a two-tone solid block link, where your center links are extra heavy 10 micron solid gold plated, which is then sided with hand satin finished stainless steel. Now, we did the same thing on our case, where we did a high polish, we did a satin, and our bezel is the extra heavy gold plate done in yellow gold, so you have the contrast. Both match each other, the bracelet and the case. Now, what's really interesting about this entire piece is I didn't want a plain, simple dial, again, with great markers in guilloche. I needed some color. So what we added was an ocean blue chapter ring on the dial, on the silver white, Arctic white dial, with hand-applied markers. The second model we're introducing is our #1 best-selling hand guilloche engraved vertical pinstripes. And yes, this one is done in ocean blue. So when you look at this watch through its double anti-reflected sapphire crystal, you actually see a vertical series of lines that is a hand engraved pattern on your dial. Now, this is the famous ocean blue that started it again, and most of the brands followed and have a blue color of some kind. And yes, this even has our Milanese mesh.
Okay, so Rick, what I want you to do very quickly on each of those, can you give me the pricing structure, and then we'll start delving into some detail.
Sure. The two-tone solid block link piece, its normal retail is $2,395 with the ocean blue chapter ring. And that watch at $2,395, your collectors can get it right now for $1,095. Again, once again, below actual cost. Now, the second piece we're talking about and highlighting is the Milanese mesh. And by the way, remember, that's the bracelet that other brands add on $750 just for your bracelet. Well, this one's going to really surprise everybody. We don't have a lot left. We're in single digits. The retail is $2,295 for the ocean blue hand guilloche pinstripe, and the special one-time get it now price is $985. Remember, the bracelet alone, other folks are trying to get $750 just for the bracelet.
Yeah, the bracelets on these, by the way, and I own one of the Milanese. I'm telling you, it's exquisite. It's amazing how it absolutely fits on the wrist. So, Rick, let's go ahead and grab one of those and delve into a bit of detail.
Okay, let's do the two-tone, which is the newest
Sure.
Of all of the pieces, two-tone in the solid block link that we introduced in steel a little while ago. Now, this watch has the ocean blue, the famous ocean blue chapter ring going around the sides, which does the contrast on the dial. And again, you know what? It catches the eyesight of other people around you, especially because you have an extra heavy yellow gold bezel on a stainless steel hand-lapped and polished case, matching the heavy link bracelet, which is heavy gold plate centered and then hand satin finished steel for the contrasting colors. Now, another interesting thing about this watch is that we split the day and date pieces, where we put your calendar part at 6 o'clock. And then instead of a normal date window that says MON or TUS or whatever on a small little rectangle square, what we did is we did a huge curve window for the day on the right. So it follows the circle of the ocean blue chapter ring and the bezel, and you have the full word of the day. And it's a big curve that matches. So guess what? Once again, it's not the plain, usual, you've seen them all over situation. I hope you can see it on camera that the day is Tuesday, not just TU or TUE, whatever.
Sure.
So that's another difference. Now, the second model we talk about is our now world famous ocean blue. And once again, this is the ocean blue done in a vertical, hand guilloche engraved pinstripe pattern. So as you move the watch around, you'll actually see different lines that seem to be vertical, although wavy because of how they've been engraved. By the way, Tim, you know, we forgot to mention, remember we know that we only make 300 of a watch for the world.
Yes.
Well, what we do is we hand engrave your watch's serial number on the side of the case. So, for example, you may wind up with this ocean blue vertical pinstripe Milanese Mesh, and of 300, you might have 106 piece in the production, or 39th piece, or 266 piece. But that's going to be hand engraved on the side of your watch, and it's going to be on its limited edition certificate that you get with every single Jean Marcel. By the way, do you want to mention about that we time each and every watch in 6 positions rather than 5, which is what COC uses, and then we put that on your certificate for your watch only also.
Well, Rick, let's delve, and I don't want to get hugely into it, but for somebody who doesn't reference what you just referenced, in other words, you know, what's up with the 6 positions, specifically, what are you referring to and why is that a big deal?
Well, it's important. I'll tell you why. The really, really well done, real Swiss watches, and of course everything has to be mechanical, hand-built, hand-done, well, they're timed and they're regulated, and then they do the final assembly. Well, sometimes they're not running that accurate. And you know what? Unless you actually time it, you don't know how well it is running. Well, COSC was created to time the higher grade mechanical Swiss watches, and they tested in 5 positions: dial up, dial down, crown up, crown down, and they do this and record how accurately it runs in each position. Now, if it passes the test and is really fairly or very accurate, they issue a certificate with a number that watch is considered high quality, high accuracy. Well, you know Rick, and Rick can't leave it the way it was. It's never good enough. So he came up with, well, why don't we test it in 6 positions? That way we can really make sure it's even more accurate than the regular tested models. And we do. So we test each one in 6 positions, and when it passes, and it's more accurate than most other ever tested, that is put right on your limited edition certificate, so you have proof of the model of 300 number, you have proof of its accuracy, you're so protected and covered.
Well, Rick, let's go ahead and move the show forward, and as we do that, I want to say that what Rick just described happens on every single Jean Marcel, so it wasn't unique to the 2 that we just showed you. If you own a Jean Marcel, then you probably already know. You got that certificate. They had the 6 different positions and the ratings, and it's really a remarkable mechanical feat, and it's one of the many reasons to own, frankly, Jean Marcel. So with that stated, let's go ahead and take a look at the next. So as we get into the final watch of the evening, I got to say, Rick, this is among my favorites that you're showing because, A, I'm a fan of the Milanese, and plus I love monochromatic design anyway. I love something that's all silver or it's all charcoal or whatever. This one is done entirely in the silver with a really quick color splash in it. But to open the conversation, I have to say, of the mechanical achievement, I love the date you put at the 12 on this piece.
Yeah, once again, Tim, you know what? I looked at all the day dates all over the world, and everybody splits them all over the dial, and I said, hey, what can I do that's better? What can I do unique? What's special? And it was, why should the person who wants to see the day and date have to look all over the dial? Why don't we re-engineer the movement, retool everything, and let's put them in one place? Well, it seemed like a good idea to put it up at 12 o'clock on the dial of your watch. So now you have a day date that shows you the day and date in one position, 12 o'clock. The other thing I thought would be kind of neat would be to put a red arrow tipped end on your running second hand so you get a little touch of color once again. And it tells you if you want to time something by the seconds, makes it an awful lot easier. Now, please remember, Milanese Mesh, extra large size. If you need one more link, let us know. We'll be happy to send it to you because you are now a Jean Marcel global collector.
Rick, one of the things I love, when you mentioned that splash of color, and I think it's so effective on this, is the vast majority of this dial is various silvers and whites and so on, and it's that one fire engine red that just hits, and it's this really quick, eye-catching little bit of display, and I say kudos to that. I want to move a little bit beyond that, though, and let's talk about a couple of things. One, what does hand applied mean when it comes to the markers? And two, I believe this dial also has some subtle guilloche on it as well.
Yes, it certainly does. You know, we're back to, if you're going to decorate, you might as well do some hand guilloche engraving, which costs an awful lot. But you know what? It makes a more attractive and unique face presentation. So the aesthetics are absolutely tremendous on the watch we're talking about. Besides, as we said, rebuilding your movement so your day and date is at 12 o'clock in one position. And by the way, it's another Jean Marcel exclusive and special and makes a statement. We did the fire engine red arrow tip second hand that you see that constantly moving around, and it's a little more exciting. The other thing you asked about is hand set markers. Well, Tim, if you look at this, these are all what we call double bar hand set stick markers, and each one has been individually painted with luminosity, of course, so that it glows, but more important, hand set. A hand set marker is this. That's a little teeny, if you will, strip of metal that has two teeny little feet on the bottom of it. And you cut two holes in your dial where you want your marker. You put the piece through the holes, and you turn the dial upside down, and basically, I guess you just hit the little tab that's sticking through the hole, and it makes it flat and spreads it, and that keeps your hand-applied marker on your dial. Why do we do hand-applied? Because it's better looking, it's sharper, it's crisper, and it's really hand-applied. It's not just steel die embossed from the back. And by the way, when you want to do a steel embossed dial, you can do it in the Far East for less than 60 cents. Well, my gosh, we're not concerned about what it costs. We're concerned about how special, how phenomenal, how different, how unique, and the super duper quality that nobody else will offer you at normal price points, much less on this show where you have unbelievable value statements.
Well, Rick, if you could, can you give us the actual pricing structure on this one more time? Because I know we're down to the last handful. And by the way, along those lines, I believe this is the, when this does sell out, I believe it's the last of them, or am I wrong on that?
No, this is all there is. There will never be any more. And especially when you hear the price that we set it up for you, that is just self-speaking about the whole watch. The few people that are lucky enough to get it are really stealing, and I hate to use that word, but they're stealing this watch. The normal retail is $2,295 with the Milanese Mesh double deployment buckled bracelet, and you can pick it up for $985. And by the way, you know, everything includes the shipping because we're not going to add a whole bunch of extra money to ship you your limited edition exclusive Jean Marcel.
And Rick, that certainly speaks volumes to the fine companies that Talk About Watches has partnered with, because I think including the shipping is something we do to just further extend customer service and customer relations. And I'm very grateful that you are part of our family and sharing your expertise and the Swiss excellence that is the Jean Marcel. Guys, we are going to wrap this up. And again, I encourage you to please use the link. Depending on how you're viewing us, it could be on Facebook Live or it could be on YouTube. The link is either going to be underneath this video, possibly to the right. Just click that, and you're going to find that you'll go immediately to the full list of the Jean Marcels with the special pricing. Now, I should also tell you that pretty much everything is in limited quantity. For example, the Snowman, if it even still exists at this point, we only had the one, but they're all in small quantity. So I can't guarantee everything's still available. As you're viewing this, please get over there. Rick, thanks again, sir, for being a part of the show. Thank you, everybody out there, for joining us, and we'll see you back really soon on another edition of Talk About Watches Live. Be well, everybody.